It's really great to be here for this one.
Yeah, I'm super excited because, well, statistically speaking, there is a very high probability that the person you are right now is just completely unrecognizable to your 7-year-old self.
Oh, absolutely. Like, completely different.
Right. I mean, if little you looked at adult you today, like at your daily routine or your job or just the things you worry about, would they be disappointed?
That is such a heavy question, honestly.
It really is. Would they just look at you and wonder, what happened? So today we are doing a deep dive into the anatomy of childhood dreams.
Yeah, we're basically exploring what we wanted to be when we grew up and how those really pure early aspirations change as we navigate the whole complicated world of adulthood.
Yes, like the heavy adult world. And, looking at the sources today, we're pulling from this collection of personal transcripts.
Right, these are just ordinary people sharing their earliest memories and their childhood goals.
Yeah. And we're looking at the simple English language that they use to describe these massive psychological shifts from being a kid to becoming an adult.
It's a really beautiful and honestly almost painful topic sometimes because it is just incredibly universal.
It really is.
Yeah.
So before we get into the psychology of it all,
Hmm.
I want to speak directly to you, the listener.
Yeah, take a second here.
Exactly. Take a second. And if you are in a safe place to do so, just close your eyes for a moment. What was the very first thing you wanted to be when you were young?
Like the very first thing.
Right. Not the practical major you picked in college later on.
Or the safe career your parents suggested.
Yeah, skip all that. What was that first absolutely pure dream? Keep that image in your mind as we go on this journey today.
That's a great way to start.
Because, reading through these personal accounts, what really strikes me isn't just what the kids wanted to be, like veterinarians or astronauts or royalty.
Right.
It's the absolute unwavering certainty they had.
Mm.
Like they didn't just want it, they were sure of it.
Yeah, that certainty is really the defining characteristic of a child's ambition. I mean, before the real world builds all those walls in our minds, a child's dream is just completely raw.
Totally unfiltered.
Exactly. For example, one memory from the transcripts that really stands out is this deep, overwhelming desire to be a veterinarian.
Oh, I loved that story.
Right. And it wasn't just a casual passing thought. This kid was entirely obsessed with animals. They had one of those little plastic toy doctor kits.
Ones with a chunky plastic stethoscope.
Yes. And they would seriously, meticulously check the heartbeat of their family pets.
The story specifically mentions a very patient dog named Biscuit
Oh my gosh, Biscuit.
and 2 highly tolerant cats.
Yeah.
But, just picture this vividly. A tiny kid sitting on the living room floor, pressing a plastic yellow stethoscope against a golden retriever's chest.
It's such a great visual.
And the thing is, they aren't just pretending to check Biscuit's heartbeat. In their developing brain, they are a real doctor.
Right.
They're literally saving lives right there on the rug.
Which is amazing. And I mean, Biscuit definitely deserves an award for patience, that's for sure.
Oh, 100%.
But you hit on the crucial mechanism there. In their brain, it is reality. And then we have another story that is completely different in its scope, but identical in its passion.
The astronaut.
Yes, the astronaut. This person wanted to be an astronaut so badly. Their bedroom walls were completely covered, like floor to ceiling, in posters of planets and stars.
Space shuttles everywhere.
Everywhere. And they just consumed every single book they could find in the local library about NASA, rocket fuel, the moon, all of it.
And it wasn't just scientists and explorers, right? Some of the other stories talk about wanting to be a princess or a famous rock star.
Yeah, painters, writers.
Exactly. And there is just such a striking purity to it. Thinking about how completely immersed a child gets in these dreams, it really reminds me of building a fort in the backyard.
Oh, like a blanket fort?
Yeah, or in the living room out of old blankets and kitchen chairs.
That is a perfect image for this. We really should explore the psychology of that blanket fort. Like, why is that such a powerful space for a child?
Well, I mean, when you are a kid, you take some old blankets that smell like laundry detergent and you drape them carefully over some chairs, and suddenly you are inside a castle.
Or a spaceship?
Right. In that tiny, dark space under the table, you are completely free from the outside world's rules.
You make the rules.
Exactly. You can be a queen ruling a nation in that castle, or you can be a race car driver zooming across the floor.
Yeah, and you don't worry about paying rent for the fort.
No, you don't worry if the blanket is, out of style or if the structural integrity of the kitchen chair is compromised. You just exist in the pure magic of what you have built.
And if we look at the cognitive development happening right there, that fort is exactly what a childhood dream is.
How so?
Well, it's a psychological space built entirely out of imagination, and it's fiercely protected from the heavy, complex rules of the adult world.
Right, because kids don't know those rules yet.
Exactly. A child's brain simply hasn't developed the neural pathways for concepts like consequences or financial ruin.
Or limitations.
Exactly. In that blanket fort, the word impossible just does not exist. The focus is entirely on the joy of the activity.
Joy is basically their only metric for success.
That's beautifully put, yes.
But, as we all know, you cannot stay in the blanket fort forever.
Sadly, no.
Eventually it gets dark, or it starts raining if you're outside,
Yeah.
or your mom tells you to bring the kitchen chairs back to the table so the family can eat dinner.
The real world always interrupts.
Right. The real world eventually taps on the blanket and says, hey, time to come out.
Ah,
So these early dreams are beautiful and simple, but eventually reality intrudes.
it always does.
So how and why do these pure aspirations start to shift? Like what actually happens in our brains as we get older?
Well, that brings us to the inevitable reality check. It is this specific moment when practicality enters the room.
Okay, practice.
Yeah, and this collision between our innocent childhood dreams and the cold, hard facts of growing up, it can be quite difficult to process.
I can imagine.
Sometimes the dream changes internally. We simply mature, and we start to realize our own physical or intellectual limitations. Or we finally understand the specific, really grueling skills required for that dream.
Oh, right. Like the astronaut dream we were just talking about. The person in that story said the dream ended simply because, well, math happened.
Math happened. I love that.
It's so funny.
It really is. It's such a funny but profound way to put it. Going to space requires being exceptionally, remarkably good at complex mathematics.
And physics.
Right. So when that child sat in a middle school classroom and realized algebra was incredibly difficult and frustrating for them, the astronaut dream just slowly began to fade.
It wasn't like a huge drama?
No, it wasn't a grand tragedy at all. It was just a quiet realization of facts. The brain just starts to understand its own boundaries.
But sometimes, it isn't just an internal realization about our own skills.
Yeah.
Sometimes external factors completely ruin the joy of the activity.
Oh, definitely, like the ballet story.
Yes. There's that story in the transcripts of a child who deeply loved ballet. They loved the movement, the music, just the feeling of spinning.
But then they got that teacher.
Right. They encountered a very strict, serious, demanding teacher. And because of that, teachers' harsh corrections and demands for perfection, a hobby that used to be pure fun started to feel like a stressful punishment.
The joy was just totally drained out of it.
Exactly. So the child simply quit.
Yeah, the outside world imposes its standards.
Mhm.
And the personal accounts provide a really powerful metaphor for this shift into adulthood.
What's the metaphor?
Well, as we grow up, practicality enters our lives like a very serious manager who was absolutely not invited to the meeting.
The uninvited manager.
Right, but they somehow walk in, sit at the head of the table, and just take over anyway.
Oh, I can picture this perfectly. This manager walks in wearing a crisp gray suit, carrying a heavy leather briefcase full of adult realities.
Yes, exactly.
And they open the briefcase and pull out all these complicated, heavy things like utility bills, timing, family pressure, societal expectations.
And fear, lots of fear.
Yeah, fear. So suddenly the conversation in your brain isn't about flying to the moon or painting beautiful pictures anymore. It's about finding stability.
Paying for health insurance.
Right. And just doing what society expects a quote-unquote normal person to do.
Precisely. And we start to inherit these ideas of success from society and from our parents.
We hear those messages all the time.
Yeah, we hear things like, this is what sensible people do. Or, art is a nice hobby, but it's not a real job.
Right.
Or, this is what a successful, respectable life looks like. And before you even realize what is happening, you are spending all your energy trying to become good at a life you never actually questioned.
You're just conforming.
You are blindly following in someone else's footsteps because the manager told you it was the safest route.
Okay, wait, hold on. Let's be brutally honest here for a second.
Okay, let's do it.
If we are really looking at this logically, that uninvited manager of practicality is the only reason human society actually functions.
Well, sure.
I mean, if we all stayed in our blanket forts trying to be rock stars and princesses, we would literally starve.
That is true.
We wouldn't have plumbers. We wouldn't have accountants. We wouldn't have people building roads. So adapting to reality isn't a tragedy, is it? It's just basic human survival.
Yes.
When the kid realized math happened and they couldn't be an astronaut, that's just the brain doing its job, right? It's calculating risk, recognizing a dead end, and pivoting to a safer path. Isn't that just a necessary part of growing up?
That is a brilliant point, actually, and it is absolutely correct. The manager is entirely necessary for survival.
Right.
You need to pay for groceries, you need a roof over your head, you have to navigate the economic reality of the world we live in.
So the manager is good.
The problem isn't that the manager exists. The problem is when the manager is allowed to fire the dreamer completely.
Oh. Okay, what do you mean by firing the dreamer?
Well, adapting to reality is necessary, like you said. But when we let practicality silence our inner voice entirely,
Yeah.
when we stop doing anything just for the pure joy of it, we end up living lives that look great on paper, but feel hollow on the inside.
It's going through the motions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We spend 20 years building a very safe, very sensible life, but we wake up one day and feel totally disconnected from the person we used to be in that blanket fort.
Wow. Yeah.
The tragedy isn't getting a normal job. The tragedy is forgetting how to play entirely.
That makes a lot of sense. But managers should handle logistics, sure, but they shouldn't be allowed to dictate your entire personality.
Exactly.
So if adapting is necessary for survival, does that mean the childhood dream just dies completely once we become adults? Like, do we just bury the astronaut and the veterinarian in the backyard and move on?
Not at all. And this is perhaps the most beautiful and profound insight from our deep dive today.
Okay, tell me.
Adulthood doesn't kill the dream, it just pushes it into the background. The dream doesn't evaporate, it is simply obscured by the mechanics of living.
Explain that to me. Because I know a lot of people listening right now feel like their dream is completely gone. They feel like they haven't thought about it in a decade.
Well, let's use a very vivid analogy from the sources to understand this. Imagine your original pure dream is like a beautiful bright window in a room.
Okay, a window.
The sun is shining and the light is pouring through that window, illuminating everything. But over the years, as you grow up, you start accumulating boxes. And you start piling these boxes in front of the window.
The heavy boxes of adulthood.
Exactly. The first box is a mortgage or rent. You stack that in front of the window.
Right.
Then comes a very large box called fear of failure. Then you stack a box of sheer physical exhaustion from working 40 hours a week.
Yeah, that's a big box.
Yeah. Then you add a huge, weirdly shaped box of other people's opinions and expectations.
Just piling up.
Eventually, year after year, the boxes are stacked so high and so wide that they completely cover the window. The room gets dark.
And you can't see the light anymore.
You look around, and because you haven't seen the sun in so long, you genuinely forget the window was ever there to begin with.
That is such a haunting but accurate image.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the light is still there outside. The sun didn't go out.
Mm.
But the boxes of daily life are completely blocking it.
Yeah.
We were just staring at cardboard boxes all day. But you were saying that we don't forget forever, right? The dream eventually comes back.
Yes, because the light always finds a way through the cracks. The dream returns, usually in very strange, ordinary, quiet moments.
Like when?
You might be driving your car to the grocery store on a Tuesday evening, or standing in the shower, or lying awake at night listening to the rain hit the roof.
Just completely mundane moments.
And suddenly, in the quiet, that old part of you gives you a very gentle tap on the shoulder.
Just a little tap, a whisper saying, hey, remember me, I am still here.
Precisely. It shows up completely unexpectedly. And when it does, it can make you very emotional, sometimes even sad or overwhelmed.
Why sad?
Because in that flash of light, you realize just how disconnected you have been from your true self. But here is the most critical realization. When that tap on the shoulder happens, the nature of the dream has fundamentally changed.
Right, because a 40-year-old accountant usually doesn't suddenly want to put on a tiara and be a literal princess anymore.
Exactly.
But what does this all mean for the dream itself? How does it change?
That is the core insight here. The dream doesn't die, it distills.
It distills.
Yeah. When you are 7 years old, you want the aesthetic of the dream. You want the shiny spacesuit, the giant stage, the loud applause, the crown.
The props, basically.
But as you age, mature, and experience the world, your brain distills that loud aesthetic down to the core emotion behind it.
The emotion. So instead of wanting a stadium full of screaming fans, what is the grown-up rock star actually looking for?
They are looking for connection. They want to feel heard. They want to feel seen and validated for their creative expression.
Oh, wow.
And the kid who wanted to be an astronaut didn't necessarily want to do orbital mechanics. They wanted to feel weightless.
They wanted freedom.
Exactly. They wanted the ultimate freedom of floating above the heavy world. They wanted to explore the unknown.
That is incredibly profound.
Mhm.
So the dream transforms from a specific job title into a state of being.
Yes.
You realize you didn't want the career, you wanted the feeling that you thought the career would give you.
Exactly right. As adults, the new version of the dream is often much quieter. They might just want peace or autonomy over their own time.
Yeah.
They might want a calmer life or to do work that feels meaningful to their local community. Sometimes the beautifully distilled version of the dream is simply wanting to wake up in the morning without feeling a heavy weight on your chest.
Just taking a deep breath.
It becomes less about looking impressive to the outside world and entirely about feeling right inside your own life.
Waking up without feeling heavy. I think, honestly, everyone listening can relate to that desire.
Absolutely.
But here's the practical problem. How do we achieve that feeling of weightlessness or creative freedom if we still have the uninvited manager in the room demanding that we pay the electricity bill?
Right. The manager is still there.
The personal stories talk about this concept of restraint and loyalty to a dream. How do those concepts help us?
They are crucial tools because when people feel that tap on the shoulder from their old dream, they often panic.
They free out.
They think they need to do something massive and dramatic to fix their life immediately. They think, I must march into my boss's office, quit my job today, sell my house, buy a van, and move to a farm in the middle of nowhere.
Which makes sense, but that is terrifying, highly risky, and usually ends with the manager of practicality having a total meltdown because you have no money.
Right. And this is where the concept of restraint comes in. Restraint means holding back from making a wild, impulsive, destructive decision. It means understanding that moving slowly, saving your money carefully, and taking incredibly small steps is not a failure.
It's just being smart.
In fact, real courage is rarely a dramatic explosion. Real courage is sometimes just a quiet, stubborn refusal to forget the dream completely. That is what loyalty looks like.
So loyalty to your dream doesn't mean quitting your safe job to buy a guitar and sleep on couches.
No, not at all.
What does that restraint actually look like in the mundane, everyday life of an adult?
In everyday life, restraint and loyalty look like making small, deliberate, almost invisible choices.
Give me an example.
Okay, if your new distilled dream is to feel creative freedom, like that rock star feeling,
Right.
maybe it means keeping your sensible, boring job that pays the bills, but dedicating exactly 20 minutes every single night to writing your book or playing an instrument or sketching instead of mindlessly watching television.
You find the feeling in the margins of your life.
Yeah. Exactly. If your distilled dream is the astronaut's desire for a calmer, weightless life, maybe it means slowly, quietly saving a portion of your paycheck over 5 long years.
So you can eventually afford to move to a quieter town or transition to a less stressful career.
Exactly. You don't blow up your life. You ask yourself, how can I generate that feeling of being free or seen right now in my current everyday circumstances?
Going back to our analogy, it's basically moving the boxes away from the window, just one small box at a time.
Right.
You don't hire a bulldozer to destroy the room?
That's right. You don't have to clear the whole room in a single day. You just move one box of exhaustion. Then you move one box of caring about other people's opinions.
Just a little bit of effort.
You just make a tiny little crack so you can see a sliver of sunlight again. You practice, you learn, you build quietly.
It's a slow process.
The goal isn't an instant magical transformation. The goal is simply to stay connected to the core emotion of what matters to you.
And this brings us to a really beautiful, comforting realization about growing up. Dreams and practicality do not have to be enemies fighting a war in your brain.
They really don't.
They just need a healthier relationship. The manager of practicality can handle the spreadsheets, pay the mortgage, and buy the groceries.
But the dreamer gets to decorate the room, choose the music, and decide what matters at the end of the day.
They can work together perfectly.
Yeah, the manager builds the safe walls of the house, but the dreamer builds the blanket fort inside it.
I love that. We spend so much time mourning the astronauts, the rock stars, and the veterinarians we never became.
We really do.
We look in the mirror and think that the uninvited manager of adulthood came in and stole all our joy and imagination. But as we've uncovered today, peeling back the layers of these personal stories, that simply isn't true.
No, it's not.
The light is still coming through the window. The dream didn't die, it just grew up with you. It changed from a loud, colorful fantasy into a deep, quiet desire for freedom, peace, or meaningful connection.
It is ultimately a profound message of hope. It tells us that slow progress is still progress.
Yeah.
You don't have to change everything today. Just keep looking for the light coming through the window and be loyal to the feeling it gives you.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a new final thought to ponder as you go about the rest of your day.
Something to really think about.
Yeah. Think back to that image I asked you to picture at the very beginning of our conversation. Imagine, just for a moment, that you could write a letter right now to that 7-year-old version of yourself,
The one sitting in the blanket fort.
the one checking the dog's heartbeat.
Yeah.
If you could send them a letter, would you tell them to hold fiercely onto their exact dream, like to become that literal astronaut or that literal veterinarian no matter what the cost? Or would you try to explain the beautiful, unexpected, and much quieter ways that our desires distill and transform as we grow? Think about what you would say to that kid.
They might be surprised.
They might just be incredibly happy and relieved to know that even after all these years and all those heavy boxes, you still remember the magic they built.